There are moments in history that defy logic, moments when something greater steps in, something unseen, something divine. Stories that are so precise, so perfectly timed that they become impossible to believe or explain unless you have lived them. And this is what this story is about. It was aired on a TV show called Against All Odds by Bill McKay, who went through great lengths to verify the validity of the story with many eyewitnesses. In fact, the IDF commander of that unit, David Yaniv, authenticated it. So I wanted to share it because I want you to know the miracles didn't stop in the Bible. They are still happening, sometimes quietly, sometimes dramatically, but always reminding us that we are never truly alone. Enjoy the story. It was 1973 and the Syrians had control of the Golan Heights. A group of Israeli commanders were sequestered from their unit and were surrounded by a Syrian armada of tanks. They were looking for a way to retreat because they were outgunned. As they were preparing to retreat on foot, one of the commanders realized that the terrain ahead was laced with a hidden landmine, an invisible death trap. They didn't have the technology or equipment at the time to detect the mine, so they were walking blindly in what could have been a massive grave. The probability of them hitting one of them was 99.9. So the Israelis could not physically walk without triggering the minefield. They were trapped. The commander ordered his men to take out their bayonets, and on their hands and knees, they were told to tediously go through the soil with the care of a feather to try to lift these mines and then disengage them one by one systematically. Any abrupt movement could have triggered one of them, and that would mean the end of the entire platoon. Now, these mines were over 30 feet deep into the soil. So you can imagine this was an impossible and dangerous task. The soldiers, crippled by panic and fear, they went on their knees and they began to pray. What happened next is nothing short of a miracle. Out of nowhere, a windstorm, which at that time of the year was very unusual, and the ferocity of the storm was so great that those tanks were rocking off the ground. All the soldiers could do was stay kneeling, holding each other in prayer. By that time, the storm passed through the valley. 30 inches of topsoil had been blown off the land, and they could now see every single mine. Now, the probability of a wind of that magnitude during that time of year, at that particular moment, defies explanation. By the breath of God, a deadly minefield had become a road to safety. With careful steps, the soldiers followed the exposed path, and they survived to tell this remarkable story. How do you explain a storm that arrives at the exact moment, in the exact place, with enough force to save lives? Coincidence? Luck? Divine protection? In military terms, this should have been a catastrophe. But for those men that lived it, it was a miracle. So to those of you who are feeling like things are helpless, let this be a reminder. When the path ahead looks like a minefield, there are forces that you cannot see. There are miracles still happening. And remember to subscribe, as every week I share true stories that show the power of faith, destiny, and divine protection. See you in the next episode.